everybody. I'm really sad I couldn't be there in person today, but thank you to Himi for graciously agreeing to bring my bingo cards so that you can all follow along with my final presentation on my professional development throughout the semester. Basically, I'm going to go through how I was before the class started, during the class, and what my future goals are moving forward. And if you feel like there's a square that matches or aligns with the things that I'm saying, then feel free to cross that square off. And I forgot to buy a prize for the winner, but I will bring you something after Thanksgiving break is over. And so yeah, first to begin, I'm going to talk about where I was sort of before the class started. I think in general, both like personality-wise and in like the earlier negotiation simulations, I was definitely more risk adverse, and I was sort of afraid to take a stance because I felt like I needed to have a deal on the table. And I think I also struggled to find out areas where there was common overlap with the opposing side. So specifically during the very first class, during the sunflower negotiation, I remember I sort of had no idea how to separate being competitive and cooperative and try to find the ideal solution, which is why I think this issue of like who was going to take the sunflower petals versus sunflower seeds never sort of came up as a solution. But in general, on the flip side, I think an area that I could sort of return to was that I think I exerted greater emotional control, and I was better at separating my emotions from negotiations compared to other points in the semester. And okay, so transitioning now to the changes I saw during the semester, I think my biggest overall change is that I became more competitive and less risk averse. So I definitely began thinking more about how I could get the best possible deal for my clients and sort of how to separate and carve out my interests. And bingo, I think this is where the first bingo should be. So I have this initial first class scene, and I have the free space, and then I have competitive problem solving. I'm not sure if anybody got that, but yeah. Moving forward, I think another thing that I began changing was I began thinking a lot more about concession strategies, which is this square right here. So for example, a concession strategy I began thinking about often was anchoring at a higher position for an opening offer, but choosing to sort of justify my reasoning as best as I could so that I could be firmer in foregoing major concessions. And while this wasn't always possible, I think this sort of resulted from thinking about how concession strategies themselves can inherently lend themselves to boosting or detracting from credibility. And I think I also tried to think about creative solutions outside of a fixed pie, so this square right here, that could mutually benefit us, so something like an apology or non-monetary stakes. And finally, transitioning into some areas that I think I can continue to work on as I negotiate is negotiating with my own client or the people on my team. So one thing I realized throughout the semester was that, oh, and that's that square right here. And I think one thing I realized throughout the semester was that it could be difficult to sort of divorce your personal emotions from what was best from your team as a whole. And so for example, in the Walton negotiation, I knew that I should accept a settlement past a certain point because it was better than what we would receive in trial. But I sort of had to convince my client on this sort of strategy. And I think I sort of had to think about like, yeah, divorcing my own emotions in a sort of heated negotiation. And yeah, I think that's an area where I could continue to improve and to think about what's best for my side as a whole. And I think I also want to be more conscious of my body language and sort of how I'm presenting myself right there. As a whole, I think I tend to focus a lot on like trying to be very controlled over the language that I'm using in negotiations, that I think I don't really think as much about sort of what my hands are doing even now, or what my face is doing. And so I think that's an area that I could continue to refine moving forward. And I think I also still want to be more comfortable with walking away. I think I'm still sort of keen on getting a deal in general, and I think sort of being conscious of the fact that in certain circumstances it is okay to not have a deal, and that might be the best possible outcome, is something that I want to sort of still get more comfortable with. I think in general, I think we talked a lot about how being a truly effective negotiator means adapting your negotiation style to different situations. And so I think it's important to sort of continue thinking about how I can be like a negotiating chameleon and being aware of when to use a more competitive and a more collaborative approach and sort of adjusting on the fly. Thank you all so much for a great semester, and I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving.